All right, and now we're gonna build a bookcase. So this is DR270. We're gonna build a bookcase. Objective is to learn build simple shapes to precise measurements and array them and replace them. Now on this particular object, we're gonna use a lot of rectangle tool. We're gonna using a lot of the move tool as well. So let's get started. You're going to start with the rectangle tool and you're going to make the base of the bookshelf from the Blythe Spirit Drafting, which is 2 foot 6 inches by 9 inches. We're going to use the push-pull tool to pull this to 7 feet tall. Okay? So now we have the basic shell of our bookshelf. We're going to take out one side and grab your selection tool, and to do that also just tap the space bar. Select one click so that you're just selecting the surface. If you double click, oops, that was a triple. If you double click, you're gonna get just the surface and you're gonna get the surface and the edges. If you single click, you'll get just the surface. Double, surface and edges. Triple, the surface, edges, and everything that geometry touches. That includes if you build 5 different objects that are touching it way over here, it's gonna select all of that, which you don't always want it to do. In order to keep it from doing that, in order to keep things separated, we make them into components. So we're going to start doing that in this project. I want you to triple click on this unit now that one face is deleted. So I just clicked on one face and clicked the delete button. Now undo that. Make sure it's selected here and then click the delete button. You could also hit the eraser tool, but I usually use the delete button. And then you're going to triple click on this whole unit, right click and say make component. Now you can name it. That is not really the most important part, and you can rename it later. So I'm not going to label any of mine in these example videos unless it's absolutely necessary. You want to glue to none. That's really important. That's the entire point of making things components. And if you change one of these items, they'll be changed for most of the time that you're using Sketchup, and sometimes they'll revert to normal settings, but usually it remembers everything you tell it. So you don't want to take that off, and you want to glance at it every once in a while and make sure it says glue to none. You also want to make sure that this is checked. It says replace selected with component, which means that once we hit create, it's going to change all the surfaces we have right in front of us into a component. Otherwise, we would have to make a component, delete it, and then place the new thing directly in its place. We just don't want to have to go through all that. So we're going to click Create. Yay, now we have a component. Now you'll notice if I try and select it, I'm going to get the whole thing no matter what. But when I use the Move tool, I now have these rotatable handles that we talked about in class. So once it's a component, I have a lot more control over it with the Move tool. We're going to leave that alone and not move it very much in the near future. I'm going to grab the rectangle tool and make another box right at the bottom. I am going to go from corner to corner inside the component and see how they're purple circles. That means that they're an endpoint, but they're an endpoint in the component. So I'm going to click from that endpoint to this endpoint in order to make a rectangle, and you notice we can't really see anything. And that's because we made a rectangle right on top of another rectangle. But if I grab the push-pull tool, it's kind of grayed out, and that's because it's a selectable unit. I can't select any face inside this component because it's a component. And as you can see, Sketchup is telling me you can't alter that without being inside the component. And the component's like a group. So over here, Sketchup, you can see that the symbol is telling me, oh, there's nothing to alter, no big deal. But if I hover it over the bookcase, it's telling me, no, you can't push or pull that because you don't have access to it. But I just made a new rectangle down here, which I can push or pull. So I'm going to click on it and pull it up and do 1 inch, 1, enter. And then I'm going to switch to my selection tool, triple click on that. And as you notice, it didn't select the bookcase. That's because the bookcase is a component and it doesn't see it as something it can select. Right click, make a component. Create. I'm going to grab my Move tool and I'm going to grab the very bottom corner of this item. I'm going to grab it, pull it up. I'm going to tap the Control key in order to tell Sketchup that I want it to make a copy. Then I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to put this copy directly on top of the bookcase. Now I'm not going to leave it there. I'm going to end up deleting it and it's going to be one more thing that I need. But I'm going to put it up there for now. I'm going to click. Before I click on anything else, I am going to tell Sketchup that between this original and this copy, I want you to divide it evenly 8 times. And there it goes. All I had to do was type divide 8 and enter, and it creates all those components evenly distributed between the bottom and the top. Now I could do this without making the shelves into a component. I only did that so that I didn't have to worry about them sticking to anything else. I'm also about to build a wall in front of this bookcase, and I don't want that sticking to the shelves either. So I'm going to grab my selection tool, select this top shelf, and delete it with the delete key. Okay, so now I'm going to create a wall around this, and that wall should be 2'6" plus 9 on each side. So there is a 9-inch frame here and here, and then the total wall height is 11 feet. So what that means for me is I could do a couple things. I could make a small rectangle out here, and I'm going to make this wall 3 inches deep so that it's not too small to really see. So I could make the wall a couple different ways. I could come over here and make a square that is 9 inches by 3 inches. Come over here and do the same thing. 9 inches by 3 inches. Grab the push-pull tool and pull that up to the top of the bookcase. I could grab the line tool, complete that, and the push-pull tool. Ooh. Since that line is drawn on a component piece, it's not actually going to give me a new surface to cut with just that line. So I need to use the rectangle tool to make a new rectangle there. But once I do, if I even these 3 things out, I can take the eraser tool, and as long as I'm sure that these items are at the same height, I can connect them together. I can meld them into one object. And now when I do that, now when I grab push-pull, I can move this whole wall up and down to make it my total height that I need it to be. Now, I need to make sure that they're all the same height though, because if I start deleting that, I'm going to get funny stuff happening. So when I push and pull these to make sure they're at the right height, I'm going to make sure that I inference them and make sure even if they look like they're at the right height, I make sure to inference each and every one of those surfaces so that they're the exact same height. Then I'm going to grab the push-pull tool and pull it so that it is at 11 feet. Now, I'm not quite sure where 11 feet is, so there's a couple things I can do. I can grab the bottom and pull up a line and go 11 feet. Push-pull tool, grab the surface of the top and bring it to that line, and there my wall's at 11 feet. I can measure a different way. I can grab the bottom corner here and pull straight up and type in 11 feet, and then that will also give me a point at the top of my guideline that's in the right place. So if I didn't have this line right here, I could still grab the push-pull tool, grab that surface, and reference the very top of that corner. Click to finish, and now I know that this wall is 11 feet tall. Now there's another way that we can do this, which involves expanding the surface of the front of that component. And we went over that way in class, but I'm going to do it for you again. So I'm just going to Control Z until my walls disappear and I'm back at the component that I had before. I am going to grab the rectangle tool and I'm going to recover the front of that bookcase so that I can expand it. And right down here I can see that that box is 2 foot 6 inches and 7 feet. So I'm going to make it with, I'm going to calculate with math, and I'm going to see that 2 foot 6 plus 9 is 3 foot 3, so I'm going to make a 3 foot 3 inch rectangle by 7 feet, and I'm going to make sure that it's going to be made in this direction, okay? Oh, 3 foot 3 inches by 7 feet. That is not the direction that I wanted it to be made in. So I'm going to try again and flip those measurements. 7 feet, comma, 3 foot 3 inches. And there we go. I'm going to do it again this way. I'm going to do that trick where I make a really skinny triangle so I can see which way is which. So the height is first this time. So 7 foot, comma, 3 foot 3. There we go. And now I'm going to make a rectangle this big. And instead of making it, so now I know that my wall is 4 feet wide, and I have the bottom corner in the right place, I'm going to make a 4 foot wide by 11 foot rectangle. So I'm going to do 11 feet by 4 feet, enter, make it big. I'm going to grab my push-pull tool, grab my eraser tool and make that all one surface. So that's all one surface. I'm going to grab it, push it back 3 inches. Oops. I said push it back 3 inches. Hello. All right, there we go. And now there's an empty surface on the bottom. I can make SketchUp redraw that surface by covering one whole side with a line tool again. And that just tells SketchUp, hey, go ahead and fill in that surface. I'm going to grab my selection tool and remove that original wall piece that I made. And there we go. That is a complete bookshelf again. The exact same size. I'm going to grab my tape measure tool to show you that it's 11 by 4, and the bookcase itself is 7 by 2 foot 6 by 9. Okay, and that is it for building a bookshelf.